Hello, this is Leader Squirrel, and this time I'm going to solve the problem of let's try at page 12. So let's get started. So I select only 3 problems, which is 2, 5, and 12. So now in 2. Now the value is 3, and the subtrahend is 2. And this one is easy, just the difference is just only 1. Now here, the value is just 1 and 0, and the difference is just 1. And it is easy again. The difference between the manuend and the subtrahend is 0, because the value is just the same, 5 and 5. Now here comes the problem. The manuend value is 3 and subtrahend is 6, and the difference between the value is 3, and we should not write 3 here in this case. Why? Because the value of the subtrahend is bigger in this case. So in this case we should borrow from a number that is column higher. So here the value of 9 becomes 8. And another value, which was plus 1, it now moves to from here. And if we add these two values, it becomes 13. So I'll change the color. So the manuend becomes 13, and the subtrahend remains as 6. So the difference between the manuend 13 and subtrahend 16 becomes 7. Now let's look at the next column. Well, the value of manuend and the value of subtrahend is just the same. Remember, we have borrowed 1 from the column below. So the value becomes 8. So the value of manuend and the subtrahend is same as 8. There's no difference, so we write 0. Now, here, the manuend is 4 and subtrahend is 3. Then the difference between the manuend and the subtrahend is just 1. So we just write 1. Now here, let's see, the manuend value is 0 and the subtrahend value is 7. And we should not write 7 because subtrahend value is bigger. So, what should we do? As I said, we should borrow a value that is just 1 column higher. So, the value of 3 becomes 2, and the other 1 goes to 10. And this time, as there's no manuend, the value of manuend just remains as 10. So the difference between manuend 10 and the subtrahend 7 is 3. Now let's go to the next column. The value, I'll change the color to sky blue, the value of manuend and the subtrahend is just the same, 2. And there is no difference, 0. Now let's go to the next column. The value of manuend is 1. And the subtrahend, remember there's a hidden 0 here, is just 1. So we just write 1. So the answer for problem number 2 is 103,107,011. Now let's solve problem number 5. In here, the value of manuend is 8 and subtrahend is 8, which has the same value and the difference is 0. Now here, the manuend value is 5 and the subtrahend value is 7. And this time we should not write 2 because the manuend value is smaller. So we borrow from a column that is 1 time higher. So the value of 6 is equal to 5 plus 1. And we're going to borrow this 1 to the tens column. So this becomes 5, and this becomes, the 1 becomes 10 when it goes to the tens column. And we should add these two values. And the add of these two values becomes 15. So the manual becomes 15. And subtrahend remains as 7. So the difference between the manual 15 and 7 is, let's see, is 8. Now let's look at the hundreds column. In the hundreds column, the value of manual is 5, and subtrahend value is 9, which this time again, the manual value is smaller than the subtrahend value. So we should borrow from a column that is one time higher. So the 7 here can be written as 6 plus 1, and this 1 will go to a column that is one time lower. So this 1 will change as 10. And if we add these two values, 10 and 5, the value becomes 15. So the manual 15 and the subtrahend 9, what is the difference? This time it became 6. Now let's go to the next column. Well, this one is easy. The manual value 6, subtrahend value 6. The value is the same. There's no difference. We write 0. Now, manual value 7, subtrahend value 9. There's a difference of 2, but the value is smaller. So we borrow from a column that's one time higher, and the 7 at the 100,000s will be 6, and the 1 here becomes 10 at the lower column. And if we add 10 and 7, it becomes 17. So the manual becomes 17 and the subtrahend becomes 9. So if we subtract these two numbers, it will be, see, it is 8. Now let's go to the next column. The value of manual is 6, subtrahend value is 8. Though the value difference is 2, we should not write 2 because the manual value is smaller. And we should borrow from a column that's one time higher, and the value 8 becomes 7 plus 1. And this 1 goes to a value that's lower. And this 1 changes to 10. And we should add these two values, a value that has been borrowed from a column higher and the original value of the column. And if we add these two numbers, it becomes 16. So the manual value becomes 16, and the subtrahend value remains as 8. And the difference between 16 and 8 is simply 8. Now here, the manual value is 7, subtrahend value is 9, and the manual value is smaller. So we borrow from a column that's one time higher. So this 9 turns out to be 8 plus 1, and this 1 goes to a lower column, and it becomes 17. So the manual value is 17, and subtrahend value is 9. And the difference between these two numbers is 8. Now, I'll change the color to purple. Now here, the manual value is 8, subtrahend value is 9. Again, manual value is smaller than the subtrahend, and we should borrow that which is one column higher. So this 9 becomes 8 plus 1, and this 1 goes to a lower column. So in this case, the manual value becomes 18. the difference between 18 and the subtrahend 9 is 9. Now let's go to the next column. Well, the value of minuend and the subtrahend is the same. And the difference is nothing, so we write 0. But the 0 at the top will be diminished, should be gone. So we don't write it. And the final answer for this question becomes 98,880,680. Now let's solve the problem 12. The manual value is 8 and subtrahend value is 9. What should you do? You should borrow a value which is one column ahead and one should go down. So the value of minuend 8 turns out to be 8 plus 10. This 10 is borrowed from a column ahead. So the total value becomes 18. So the difference between 18 and the subtrahend 9 becomes 9. Now, in the next column, this one value, it was already borrowed, and the value of minuend now is just 0. And the subtrahend value is just 0. There's no difference between them. So we write just 0. Now, the manuend value is 2 at the next column, and subtrahend value is 9. It is true that the manuend value is smaller, and we should borrow a value which is one column higher. So this 8 should transform to 7, and the missing 1 will go down here by changing the value, which is 10 times higher than the value. So we write 10. And you should add these two numbers. And 10 plus 2 becomes 12. And the manuend value becomes 12. So the difference between 12 and 9 is 3. Now I'll change the color to red. The manuend value is now 7, and the subtrahend value is now 8. And as the manuend value is one time lower, the value of minuend isn't accurate. So we should borrow a number which is one column higher. So this 4 transforms to 3, and the missing 1 now goes to add as 10 at the column below. So manuend value at the thousands turns out to be 17, and subtrahend remain as 8. The difference between the manuend and the subtrahend, 17 minus 8 is equal to 9. Now again, the value of manuend is lower, 3, and the subtrahend value is 4. So we should borrow from a column ahead, and this column transforms to a value of 5, and the missing 1 now goes to a column below. So the value of the manuend at the 10,000th column turns out to be 13. And the value at the subtrahend is 4. And 13 minus 4 is equal 9. Again, 5, 6. The subtrahend value is higher than the manuend. So we should borrow a value. 7 turns out to 6. And the missing 1 turns out to be 1 at here. So the manuend value is 15. Subtrahend value is 6. 15 minus 6, 9. Now, the next column. Manuend value, 6. Subtrahend value, 8. Manuend value is smaller. So, we should borrow from a column ahead. So this 5 transformed to 4, and the missing 1 now adds as 1 at the column below. So the value at the millions column, the main is 16. And if you subtract from 8, 16 minus 8 is 8. Now let's go to the next column. Minimum value 4, subtrahend value 6. Minimum value is smaller than the subtrahend, and you should borrow from a column ahead. So this 6 turns out to be 5, and the missing 1 goes to the lower column. And the minimum value at the 10 millions column turns out to be 14. And if you subtract 14 from 6, it is 8. Lastly, the value of 5. The minimum value is 5, subtrahend value is 2. And the difference between these two numbers is just 3. So the final answer of the problem 12 is 388,999,309.